Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Great to be with you, folks. Welcome in on this Monday edition of the Stigall Show. How are you? How was your weekend? It was restful and relaxing, and I hope you enjoyed it. Mine sure was. Looking at New York this morning before the sun even comes up. Thanks for listening on AM 970, The Answer. Great radio stations like it all over the country. Thanks for taking us along on the Salem News Channel app. Maybe that's your preferred way of watching. I was just speaking with some folks from Virginia Beach and telling them they could probably hear us on their closest radio affiliate, some 400 plus strong. But the safest way to be sure you can always catch the show and take it along with you is the Salem News Channel app. It's free, and you can download it. It's super easy. You can find the Harumph Society, my 3 times a week newsletter, social media, everything you need related to the show, and even email if you want to just good old-fashioned email the show, which I always read each one. I try to respond as best I can, but maybe from time to time, forgive me if I don't, but know that I read what you send every time, and many of you had much to say about Friday. It's funny, Fast Eddie, I didn't mean to leave people with the opinion that Friday I was getting ready to quit. I got a bunch of emails from people on Friday. Hang in there. I didn't realize I sounded that down in the mouth on Friday, but apparently I left people with the impression that I was about ready to hang it up or something.
Wow.
Like I was, I don't know, like I was the Chargers versus the Giants yesterday or something. No. It was an unusual day where Friday's Open Line Friday went a little squirrely, no doubt about it. But no, rest assured, I'm fine. I appreciate the pep talk, though. I guess it sounded like some people thought maybe I was ready to resign there, Fast Eddie. Did I leave you with that impression on Friday?
No, not at all. I thought,
Okay.
you started off really strong, which I think ultimately, Chris, if we tally everybody over the weekend and the notes you got and messages on social media,
right.
They were in favor of that thundering. It was good.
All right, let me ask you this. If guys like Michael Cohen, who have been, the guy that was Trump's former attorney, if guys like Michael Cohen are now saying that it's probably likely James Comey will be found guilty, does that make you feel more or less confident that James Comey will be. Again, Michael Cohen, one of the biggest Trump haters, went out there and basically flipped on Trump, trying to make it sound as though a very traditional, what is effectively a non-disclosure agreement. All right, here, just go away, shut up, here's money, go away. Michael Cohen, his attorney, who organized that entire thing, ultimately flips on Trump and says it's hush money, and that became the Trump hush money case, for those of you that don't remember the story. But anyway, when he now says, look, I don't like Trump, I've been through this a few times, not my first rodeo, I think Comey's going to go down. You feel more or less confident that they've got Comey here?
I still am about the same with Cohen, unfortunately, because I don't know what he's driving at. In a weird way, his behavior the past 6 months has almost been like kind of trying to get back into Trump's favor. I can't explain it, so I'm still 50-50 on it. I don't know.
I think this is interesting as we talk about James Comey this weekend, which was hilarious to watch media now act as though everything that we know that's true isn't real at all. Listen to Cohen here in number 53 as we kick it off today.
Do any of us actually really know whether or not Comey is or is not guilty of the charges? I know that they parade out all of these pundits. They have the great titles in the Chiron, former prosecutor, yada, yada, former FBI. Who's seen a single document that's in the possession right now of the DOJ? The answer is nobody. Who has the crystal ball? Still nobody. I will tell you from my investigation, which I used Brian Karem, who's a 30-year White House correspondent, to speak to people inside government because they wouldn't talk to me. I've learned that Comey was actually very much involved in the Russia investigation in a very negative way. And chances are this DOJ has every single email, every text message, every communication. I believe likely he will be found guilty.
Oh, well, that's interesting because...
Okay, that's enough. MSNBC was not bad. The reason I share that with you is I am certain that they did not believe that Michael Cohen, of all people, was going to come on their network and say he was certain James Comey would be found guilty. But this is a guy whose life has been turned upside down. He's had a rectal exam by the courts for something that ultimately was not criminal. So he knows what the annals of the DOJ are capable of doing and the halls of justice, what they're capable of doing, every rock they're willing to unturn to find the dirt. And he knows because he went through that rectal exam himself. He's quite confident that they've got everything they need on Comey. Now, look, again, you can consider the source on that, but I think it's amazing that all weekend long, starting Friday, heading into the weekend, media went in full tilt defense of James Comey mode. Mike Johnson handling himself well with Jake Tapper in number 51 on this.
As a constitutional attorney and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, do you believe it's acceptable for any president to publicly or privately instruct their attorney general to prosecute a political opponent and go as far as firing a U.S. attorney if they don't bring charges because they don't think the case is strong enough?
James Comey lied to Congress. Okay, he took an oath. He said things to Congress that were simply not true. It's called perjury. A grand jury that is not, a nonpartisan, non-biased grand jury that was assembled looked at the charges and they agreed, they voted to bring an indictment of James Comey. Not President Trump, not the DOJ, but a grand jury. That's how our system works. It's a very important principle for us to apply that everybody has to subscribe to the law, even a former FBI director. And he has lots to answer for. There are many things that he could have been indicted for, but the statute of limitations ran out on so many of those matters. Not here. Perjury is important. You can't, especially if you're a high official, appointed or elected official, you cannot raise your hand, take an oath, and lie to Congress. And that's an important principle, Jake, for us to advance.
He's exactly right. And I think what he just said, he was clearly listening to the show Friday. I kept mentioning this, and I kept driving this point home on social media over the weekend. You don't have to continue to defend or explain or whatever you feel you've got to do on behalf of Donald Trump here. Every time someone says Trump pressured the DOJ to act, all you simply have to say is what Mike Johnson just said. And I said on Friday, a grand jury saw the evidence and decided to proceed. Does everyone understand I know this audience does, excuse me. I'm not speaking down to you. I know you're the smartest audience out there. I'm talking to people happening by the show that don't understand how this works. Let me explain it to you. When the DOJ impanels a grand jury, that is a group of people. We've gone through this before. I don't know, baker's dozen or more. I think it is something like that. It can be up to 16, I think 16 to 20, somewhere in there. It's a number of people, a grand jury impaneled of your peers. The Department of Justice presents information to these people plucked at random. And they say, here's the stuff we've got on this guy. We think he's guilty of this and this and this. Here's the evidence we have. Those people then get to say, that seems flimsy to me. I don't think you have anything. Or, interesting. I think you've got something there. I think you should proceed to trial. It sounds to me like you've got the goods. DOJ had the goods. They made the case to an impaneled grand jury. The grand jury said move forward. So all of this stuff you're hearing about this being like a picked up, I don't know if everybody gets it, and I want to make sure everybody gets it. Trump does not pick up the telephone. Fast Eddie, do you think, again, I'm not talking to this audience, I'm not talking to you. Do you think the common Joe who doesn't follow this stuff like all of us do you think they get that Trump doesn't pick up the telephone and go, Bondi, it's time. Indict Comey. Do you think most people get it, or are they being purposely misled to think that's the way this works?
They're being purposely misled to think that that's the way this works. It didn't help.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't help that post from Saturday. Then you have a week-long media spin to get it to the average person who thinks that, yes, Trump picked up the phone.
You're talking about the previous Saturday when Trump scolded Bondi,
Correct.
ended up taking it down, that she's not doing enough fast enough.
Yes.
Yeah. But see, the very point of that is, actually, and I can explain that one, even though, I get it, that's not the forum to do it and whatever, I agree. That's him being frustrated. Do you think he can't? Let me say it another way. Could Trump pick up the phone and call her? He literally sits and has dinner with her. He posts on social media regularly pictures of her sitting there next to him at tennis matches or dinners. Can Trump not pick up the cell and call Pam Bondi whenever he wants and talk about this stuff? Answer, of course, he can. So why would he post on Truth Social that he's ticked off at her for not moving forward and prosecuting these people? Because the guy, look, you can think a lot about Trump. You can think whatever you want about Trump. But Trump is, if nothing else, I am 100% sure Trump is aware of what he can and cannot do legally when it comes to communications with the Department of Justice. I am certain there is nothing he thinks more deeply about than that. And so he's publicly letting everybody know, I am ticked off that Bondi's not moving fast enough, much like many of you, I'm hearing from you. What's Bondi up to? That's how he was communicating to her publicly, transparently for everyone to see. If he were working the back channels the way the Husk was doing, inviting people for meetings at the White House and whatever, we would certainly hear about that, and you're not hearing about it. No, I think a grand jury was impaneled. I mean, even the Washington Times, though, false statement cases are notoriously difficult because prosecutors must prove the lie was intentional, deliberate, and material. Well, here again, a grand jury impaneled said they think they've got the goods on James Comey. So you can continue to speculate, well, this is going to be tough. I don't think they've got anything. I think this is an empty case. I think this is just pressure being brought to bear. Well, the grand jury didn't think so, gang. More in a minute. I'm not moving off of Comey. I'm not moving off of the importance of this. As much as I know everyone else would prefer to, as much as I know everybody wants to tell you, oh, there's nothing. I saw it on Fox over the weekend. I read it in the Washington Times today. Oh, there's nothing. I'm sure it's no, this is going to be very difficult to. Have you noticed this? All of a sudden, all of the institutionalists, and there are many on our side, none of them want to go down. This is very troubling. This is very unsettling, you see, because this is so abnormal. We don't do this in this country, you see. We don't indict former FBI directors. Why? This is, we dealt with this once. Hoover. This was very, very unseemly behavior once upon a time, decades and decades ago in this country. But ever since, don't you know, the Department of Justice and the FBI are run by Boy Scouts, men and women of the highest esteem and the highest integrity. We don't have problems with these institutions anymore, don't you know? We have terrible troubles with Trump. Trump's disgusting. Trump deserves everything thrown at him. But this weaponization of the DOJ by Trump, it cannot be allowed to stand, which is why I again this weekend simply said on social media, and I think you should say it, I may tattoo this on my forehead, Fast Eddie. For the next 3 years, I might just tattoo on my head. They raided Trump's home. Now, can I just ask anyone to explain to me, if that's not weaponizing the Department of Justice, what exactly would you call it? Ed, you want to take a swing at it? Sorry to put you on trial first thing on a Monday. Can someone explain to me, if raiding a former president's home over documents isn't weaponization of the DOJ, then what exactly would you call that?
No, it absolutely was. I don't know if time is softening that to people. I don't know why that's so far in the rear view for many. Because, yes, it was over documents. And what did we find out a few weeks ago? That these documents actually could be pertaining to the work against him by the Obama administration.
Exactly right. We didn't raid Biden's home. We found out who else? Well, look, the mustachio John Bolton had classified documents. We just found out. Now they got a warrant to search John Bolton's home. They didn't go kicking down the front door of John Bolton's home. Mike Pence, the former vice president, said, "Oh, sorry, gosh, I had some classified documents in my house." Mrs. Clinton not only had classified documents, she wiped them clean off of her server and her communications devices. James Comey himself said, well, I'm sure she didn't intend to trade in classified information. I'm sure that wasn't her intention. We'll let it skate. It's absurd to think that holding him accountable for lying under oath to Congress that on a leak, which has been admitted by his subordinates that, yes, they were instructed to leak. We're starting to find out more, by the way, about who it is that he was working with and who these people are in these indictments that are probably, at least one of them, going to flip on Comey. Oh, this is very unusual. We don't indict. This is a highly weaponized, highly charged. They raided Donald Trump's home. Keep saying it. More in a minute. James Comey's going to get due process, folks. Don't sweat it. I don't worry. James Comey's going to get due process. Donald Trump got assassins. Okay? That's the difference between Democrats and Republicans running the Department of Justice and running government writ large. Maybe that's harsh, but it's fair. Donald Trump got assassins. Democrats are going to get a jury trial. They're going to get due process. Trump got Hillary's Russia collusion lies. Trump got Obama organizing a coup, which, by the way, we're still living, and I'm going to get into a little later with Trump's deployment of now action into Portland, and it sounds like Chicago as well. Comey's going to get a jury of his peers. Okay? Trump got an assassin's bullet. You see the difference? Trump got his home raided. Comey got a piece of paper telling him he was indicted. And we have people on our side this weekend going on cable news shows and network news shows acting like Comey is like, oh, what a dark hour. Are you... Because Comey always speaks at a soft tone? Because his collar is always nicely starched and his tie is always freshly tied and he always seems like a very nice guy? We feel bad? We feel sorry for James Comey? Why is that exactly? Over at Red State, Person 1 and Person 3 in the Comey indictment revealed as the ramifications of the stunning and some would say long overdue indictment of James Comey continues to sink in, new information emerging, specifically about the two individuals labeled as Person 1 and Person 3 in the filing. ABC News reporting Hillary Clinton is Person 1. Red State's Rusty Weiss reporting on Friday that also Person 3 is Comey friend and one-time personal lawyer Daniel Richman. Also learning about more about these charges specifically, DOJ is alleging Comey is a flat-out liar. ABC News senior investigative reporter Mike Levine posting to X Friday evening heading into the weekend on his post saying that sources have confirmed identities, personal lawyer Daniel Richman, as well as Hillary Clinton. The indictment, count one, says Comey willfully and knowingly lied when testifying under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee in September 2020. He reaffirmed previous Senate testimony, insisting he never authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in the news reports about an investigation connected to someone only identified as person one. That statement was false because, as James Comey then and there knew, he in fact had authorized person three to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding the investigation. Person one, Hillary Clinton. Person three, this guy Richman. Levine had more to say, that officials allege Comey used Richman as his secret back door to leak to the media. Richman contacted journalists to correct stories critical of Comey, the FBI, and also shape future press coverage. Richman did this both when he was an SGE and after he resigned from the FBI. Now, granted, this report comes from ABC, which is part of the mainstream media, says Red State, known for shading stories and printing misinformation if it hurts Trump. However, this story isn't of the get Trump variety, and Levine's explanation seems reasonable given the facts known at the time. We'll know soon enough. In the meantime, stock up on your Orville Redenbacher, because this case promises to be quite the drama. Look, I am not predicting. I don't want to whip you up, and I don't want to get myself whipped up into thinking justice is coming for this dirtball, because after all, the venue where this is all going to be heard it's in the backyard of Obama sympathizers. This judge is a big Obama sympathizer, Trump hater, an Obama appointee. So I'm not promising you conviction is coming here necessarily. But I just want everybody to understand that the people on our side who are saying, oh, there's no there, or this is going to be a very tough hill to climb, I don't think they have any kind of case. You just don't bring cases like... Have you heard all the smart people saying this? I saw Peggy Noonan. I was sitting in the airport yesterday, and I saw Peggy Noonan on Meet the Press saying, oh. She brought out the white wine spritzers and was telling us all how unseemly and unsavory. I mean, the bottom jaws were out over the weekend. Donald Trump's home was raided. Where were all the bottom jaws? Where were all the white wine spritzer Hampton Republicans? Where were all these people talking about how unusual and unsavory and unseemly it is to kick down the front door of a former president who was also the leading candidate to take on the current sitting president? You want to talk about unprecedented and unseemly? I remind you again, there was no coming back from that. If Donald Trump had lost this last election, do you understand the country was lost forever? A weaponized DOJ to that extreme that will literally kick down the door of the leading opposition to the person in power, if that was allowed to stand, the country was lost. I can't stress that enough. Back to the audio. As he always does, Stephen Miller lays out the case better than anybody can in number 60.
Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Obama, Monaco, all conspired together, all worked together to try to sabotage, undermine, unravel the democratic institutions and structures of this country. The Russiagate hoax, the Russiagate conspiracy, and all of the assaults against our liberties that went with it. The pre-dawn raids, the handcuffing of innocent Americans, the espionage against President Trump's campaign and staff, the removal of his national security advisor, one fake indictment, one fake charge after another, the special counsel, all of it was a unrelenting attempt to overthrow the government the American people voted for. I cannot find words harsh enough to condemn the conduct of these conspirators, these insurrectionists.
Precisely right. Let's go over it one more time. March 2020, Senate Judiciary Committee hearings. Comey testified under oath he never authorized or encouraged leaks of classified FBI materials. That's a lie. Forensic analysis from a special counsel probe, the Durham report, you can look it up, emails, notes, sworn witness testimony, proves Comey deliberately routed 7 different secret memoranda detailing his private Trump conversations to Daniel Richman, his law professor buddy, who then leaked them to the New York Times back in 2017. Comey knew what was in this stuff, that it contained sensitive national security details on foreign intelligence briefings. He bypassed all declassification protocol simply to damage Trump politically. There's no ambiguity here, folks. This was premeditated deception to Congress. That is illegal, and he was caught doing so. We also know he is guilty of obstruction through weaponized Russia collusion hoax stuff. This second count nails Comey's abuse of power in orchestrating the Crossfire Hurricane thing. He briefed Trump on this fake dossier, which we know is completely made up by the Clinton campaign. And he leaked excerpts of that totally made up dossier to instigate the whole Mueller investigation, which basically sidelined Trump's entire first term. The 2019 Inspector General's report on all of this, along with John Durham's findings, tell us the complete story of a guy who had total disregard. He fabricated and passed along fabricated information and then tried to obstruct justice. This was not merely an oversight. It was a calculated effort to undermine an incoming administration. He also used that fake information to secure warrants to spy on, surveil, and entrap American citizens like Mike Flynn. And it was all ultimately based on the bet that the deep state would protect him. But we have a DOJ who decided accountability was due, finally, and a grand jury indictment came. So this memory fog excuse crumbles because there's plenty of proof. Look at trials like the Scooter Libby trial. 30 months he was sentenced for perjury. Martha Stewart, false statements, got 5 months, thanks to Comey. There should be fines. There should be at least 5 months. Look, if Martha Stewart can be sent to prison for 5 months by that guy, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, if Martha Stewart goes to prison for 5 months and that guy serves no time at all, or gets a slap on the wrist and maybe a fine, which he should at a minimum get a fine of $250,000 or more, it's going to be frustrating. And I'm wholly prepared to be frustrated. But I am not going to feel sorry for this guy under no circumstances. Probably more indictments coming. John Brennan is probably one of the next. John Brennan wants you to know he has thoroughly reviewed himself, though, and wants you to know he is not guilty of anything. He feels very confident after thorough review of himself in number 58.
I don't see any case against me. I have looked back on all of my actions and decisions, and with John Durham, the special counsel, and others that have looked at what we did, it was certainly consistent with our legal authorities and with the law. So I don't know what they're referring to there. Individuals who used to work in the government, even if their security clearances were revoked, they could be subpoenaed. They could be, called to provide testimony in support of whatever allegations they have. I don't see a case there.
No. You know what? I've thoroughly looked it over, and I don't see a case there. That doesn't work for a guy coming home late explaining to his wife where he's been. Honey, I've reviewed my movement throughout the course of the day, and I can tell you, you don't have anything to worry about. I've pretty much assessed all of my moves since I left the office. I know it's after 2 o'clock in the morning. You ask where I've been, all I can tell you is, trust me on this, I've reviewed my whereabouts. You have no worries. Over at Outkick, Jimmy Kimmel. The ratings, as I told you, let's keep a sharp eye on them. Yes, he had 6 million people tune into him the day after he returned from his ABC suspension. I said, how would it look in days to come and weeks to come? Outkick.com reports it this way. Jimmy Kimmel won for now. ABC reinstated the late-night host earlier last week after a brief suspension. Sinclair agreed to stop preempting Jimmy Kimmel on its ABC affiliates effective immediately. Nexstar continues to block the show on its 32 affiliates, however, but they are likely to follow suit probably this week. Station owners like Sinclair and Nexstar never had much long-term leverage. ABC could eventually cancel and replace its affiliates ahead of the 2027 Super Bowl, which would significantly damage Sinclair and Nexstar's annual revenue. Nonetheless, Kimmel and his supporters will undoubtedly tout the events this past week as a win over Trump. Still, Kimmel's long-term future with ABC remains a question. For those wondering if Kimmel could retain his newfound momentum, his ratings on Wednesday night suggest no. And again, do you ever get any follow-ups like this? You don't, except for shows like mine. You just hear, wow, Kimmel must be really popular. Wow, 6 million people. Wow, historic Tonight Show rating. Wow. Yeah, I told you go back and look at the numbers the day after and the day after that and the day after that. Outkick dead. All right, so Wednesday night's average of 2.4 million is well ahead of Kimmel's normal 1.7 million. It marked a 70% drop from Tuesday. Now again, 6.3 million people tuned in the night after his suspension. And you can presume that a good number of those, if not maybe most, were probably conservatives wondering what he was going to say. I wasn't part of that, but I think a number of them were. And still, you're talking about a guy who got national media attention for days upon days upon days for talking about the most high-profile assassination since, what, Kennedy or MLK Jr.? This guy, he's never had more media and more attention and more press in his life. And he got 6.3 million viewers. Okay, that's good. I mean, compare it to what they're getting these days. Again, 1 million a night if they're lucky. That's huge for them. That's true. But the very next night, 2.4 million? He lost 4 million viewers in 24 hours, Fast Eddie. Did anybody tell you that story? No. This show will. Nobody else did. 4 million fewer viewers the night after his big conquering hero bit came back.
Yeah, I mean...
Anybody else tell you that?
No. To be fair, nobody else told me that. No.
Yeah, and I bet you if you look at it this week, it's going to be even lower than that. You think he's going to average 2 million viewers? What was it? 2.4 million. I bet he doesn't get 2.4 million this week. I'll bet.
Probably not. I mean, people already didn't watch anyway in the first place, so.
Charlamagne THA God talking about Jimmy Kimmel. Not impressed. I think Charlamagne probably didn't like that he's getting the... it's interesting. There's this new vacuum that they're trying to fill, trying to figure out who's going to get attention over there on the left. Give me number 47 here. Charlamagne THA God not buying Jimmy Kimmel.
You know why I didn't like the tears?
What? You thought they were fake?
Because he cried when he mentioned Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
He didn't cry 2 weeks ago or a week ago when he got...
I think he was crying that people thought he would celebrate the death of. Yeah. Like, that is what hurt him. Is like, how would you think I'm that kind of guy?
Yeah, that's how... He should have said that, though. No, I feel like he should have said that because it felt like he was just trying to do some performative emotion.
If he's that good of a crier on command, he should act.
I mean, he has that. He was acting forever. The Man Show.
The Man Show wasn't acting, dude. I'm talking about Jesus Christ.
It was acting.
No, it wasn't.
The Man Show?
It wasn't acting. That was
you think that's just where he was in his life?
That was a talk show.
That's just where he was in his moment. But no, he used to do sketches and stuff like that. Okay. He played with pretending to be Karl Malone for God's sake.
That's true. That was great acting. Oprah. He should have got an Emmy for that.
It didn't bother me none. But my point is, I felt like when he was getting emotional, he was doing that to show like the other side, hey, I do care. And then he did like the apology, not an apology. You thought he said, I'm sorry. That's how the tone sounded.
Yeah, the tone felt apologetic.
But he never said, I'm sorry.
Now, as you know, Charlamagne THA God speaks for all of Black America, so we know they're not watching Jimmy Kimmel tonight. More in a minute. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation and that they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to learn, to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Well, good morning, folks. Welcome in on a beautiful start to your Monday, particularly in Philadelphia where the 4-0 Eagles, everything looks a little sunnier in Philadelphia this morning for the Eagles fans out there. Listening on our flagship station, Philadelphia's AM 990, The Answer. Our telephone number is 855-Stigall if you want to get in here, whether you're listening on great radio stations like The Answer in Philadelphia or all over the country. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel. Get the app. It's free. You can watch on that app. You can listen on that app anytime. And also head over to chrisstigall.com. Because there you will find not just the Harumph Society, which I issue 3 times a week. That's my newsletter, and that is the one to keep most up to date, I think. For those of you that are busy and you just don't have time to get hip deep in all of this stuff, but you want to be in the know, I think the Harumph Society is the best place to go, in my estimation. So if you want to check it out, I hope that you will. chrisstigall.com is where you can find that. That's also where there is a link there, or if you want to go directly to the website, freedomandfaithstore.com. But for many of you, there's a link that you can see if you're in a certain format, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to bore you with it. But there's a link to Charlie Kirk store gear. And guys, I got something in my ear there, if you could kill whoever mic is on. freedomandfaithstore.com is the website to get the Charlie Kirk gear. freedomandfaithstore.com. Thank you. And you can go to chrisstigall.com. Either way, you should see the link there, but if not, freedomandfaithstore.com. And just know this, the I Am Charlie gear. If you have it, great. And if you don't, every nickel of the purchase, just so you know, I don't want people thinking this is an unsavory money-making opportunity on the back of some. People have asked me, where does the proceeds to this thing go? It's not a moneymaker, except for Turning Point, which is Charlie's baby. And incidentally, did you see Erica on Charlie's show? Did you hear her on our network Friday heading into the weekend? It was a fascinating conversation. She said that she has documents from Charlie where he wrote, I guess he kept extensive journals, and she says she knows well into 2028 Charlie's visions for Turning Point, and that she has basically an executed game plan on paper left by him. So she knows exactly where she's going, she knows exactly where he wanted to go, and she intends to execute his vision to the letter. Remarkable. And so if you're interested in helping further that effort, and again, get some gear to support him, you can go to freedomandfaithstore.com. What I know about this audience is they are fans of Joe Kernan at CNBC. Not a guy I know. I know nothing about his show. People, every time I bring this up, how do you not know Joe Kernan? I don't know Joe Kernan. Maybe, are they on at the same time of day we are, Ed? Is that it? Joe Kernan show? Are they on in the morning?
Yeah, Squawk Box is on opposite us, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's why I don't know Joe Kernan, because I've been a working professional for 25 years. So I don't know how long Joe Kernan's been doing mornings on CNBC. I don't monitor CNBC in the morning. So when people get indignant and they say, how do you not know who Joe Kernan is? The answer is because I'm working at the same damn time he is. That's why I don't know who Joe Kernan is. Maybe people should ask Joe Kernan about this show. Ed? Huh?
I think so.
How would he like it? Turnabout's fair play.
Yeah, let's bring Joe Kernan on, man. Get on here, Joe.
Wait, yeah. Do you think people say to Joe Kernan over lunch, how do you not know who Chris Stigall is?
Absolutely.
Do you think he gets that?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, yeah. If not, he should. The next time you see Joe Kernan, I want you to badger him about me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm surprised Hakeem Jeffries agreed to go on this guy's show. Yes, because look, learning about him, he seems like a nice guy. I don't know his politics. I don't know that he's a conservative. I don't know, but I think he's obviously a fair guy. He knows the math. He knows the markets. Incidentally, the more that I think about it, when people demand, how do I not know about Joe Kernan, that tells me they must be watching Joe over this show. Ed, isn't that an admission when you're badgering me about Joe Kernan? Aren't you effectively saying I prefer to watch him over your show when you do that to me? Isn't that about right?
So
I hadn't even thought about it that way, but that's an insult, actually.
But for the radio show all these years, that's one thing. But now, if you're watching Joe Kernan over us on SNC, I mean, that's bad.
I'm doing more advertising for Joe Kernan. No, I don't know the man. I'm sure he's fine. But anyway, I'm surprised Hakeem Jeffries agreed to go on this guy's show. Does that surprise you?
A little bit. I think Hakeem Jeffries does think he's, smart, and I think that he thinks he has it. I don't know. So I don't doubt his booker's just like, oh yeah, CNBC, Squawk Box, go ahead, do it. Okay, cool.
I got to tell you, we're talking about a government shutdown now in 24 hours or so, and I'll get into some of that and what that actually means for people that don't know. Again, this is a sophisticated audience, but because we're growing all the time, there are people that are just happening across it that are curious. What is this shutdown business about? So we'll get into the weeds in a bit. But anyway, Hakeem Jeffries pops up on Squawk Box to talk economy, and I guess Kernan just blisters him here. This is pretty good. Number 49.
Speaker, I don't know about deflation and costs coming down. All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems, or I don't know, an end of democracy or something. We just don't get it.
and Jeffries just sat there, blink, blink, blink. For those of you listening, the proverbial deer in the headlights from Jeffries. Okay, well, that went about as well for him as one could have imagined. He probably also did not know who Joe Kernan was. That's all I can assess. Right, Ed? He wasn't banking on somebody on CNBC.
Yeah, he's
laying out facts like that to his face.
Yeah, I think they have a panel of 3 or 4. So, if Kernan got Jeffries, he was just like, oh, who the hell is this guy? Yeah,
he was going to get one of the other 500 guys on the show. Over at sorry, this is NBC. They're at Bong 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 Meet the Press. Kristen Welker talking with the Senate Majority Leader John Thune about a potential shutdown. And Trump, by the way, remember, he's threatening, you let this thing happen, we're going to start furloughing federal workers, not just furloughing, firing perhaps. So no back pay business. We're just going to start. Look, this is before I play this for you. So you know, when a government shutdown happens, do you know what that means? The government effectively looks at 30% of its expenditures and says, this is non-essential, so we've got to shut this down. Meaning this has nothing to do with the basic functions of the country, so you're out. We're shutting you down. Now, people in this country who are trying to pay their bills, who maybe are upside down on a car or have credit card bills or whatever, do you think most of them want to hear, all due respect, I'm not picking on you, that non-essential taxpayer-funded jobs being cut? Do you think they want to hear from Democrats crying in their beer about that? I don't think so. I think Trump knows he's on the winning side of this here. So Welker's trying to pepper Thune about it. I think Thune knows they've got the winning hand. 55. Listen.
Do you support mass firings of federal employees if the government shuts down?
It doesn't have to happen. That's what I'm saying.
But do you support it?
They're playing
would
with
you
fire,
support it?
and they know it. They're playing with fire, and they know it, Kristen.
But do you support this threat by the president?
Simple. Chuck Schumer said a few months ago that a government shutdown would be chaotic, harmful, and painful. He's right, and that's why we shouldn't do it. So this is, if you're worried about that, then let's keep the government open. It's a pretty straightforward, again, argument. I find this, I'm very comfortable with the position that we have. It's to fund the government, finish the appropriations process, deal with the issues the Democrats want to deal with after we keep the government open.
Okay, so let's just go through this. Non-essential employees are what we're talking about here. Do you know what that is? 30% of government expenses. 70% of government spending, funding, all of the stuff that government does, that continues to be funded. 30% does not. And by the way, the reason Trump is threatening firing these people is because if they're just simply furloughed, do you know what happens? When the government reopens, they all get back pay. So they don't even lose out on money. Now, look, again, if somebody shuts off your paycheck for a couple of days, that may hurt in the interim, but you get that money back. So it's not like they're losing money. I don't know if everybody knows that. Essential employees are expected to continue work, but would not be compensated during the lapse of appropriations. Of note, congressional staff and other legislative branch employees are also subject to shutdown impacts if the legislative branch appropriation lapses. But that's only 27% of the budget. Did you know that? I think probably a lot of people don't. It is a temporary slowdown of non-essential government activities. It does not mean you don't get your Medicare. It doesn't mean you don't get your Medicaid. It doesn't mean you don't get your Social Security. It doesn't mean military folks don't get the VA treatment. None of that is true. Every time they lie. And Trump is just saying, well, I don't know if these non-essential people are going to be laid off. Maybe we just cut them loose altogether. If they're non-essential, aren't we kind of admitting we don't need them? More in a minute. Good morning, Chicago. Listening on AM 560, The Answer. Looking at the sun coming up over the lake there. Beautiful looking shot of downtown Chicago. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL, if you want to get in here, 855-784-4255. You can always find me online, chrisstigall.com. Email's there, social media's there. My 3 times a week newsletter, the Harumph Society, is there. I've got a new one coming out today. Hope you'll go check it out. Hope you'll check out Relief Factor, too, if you're battling pain. Good grief. This product, in 3 weeks, the all-natural Relief Factor, made by doctors, created in the Maher era for pain elimination without pharmaceutical products, without shots, surgeries, drugs of any kind, not even a doctor's visit. Because it's not a pharmaceutical, you can get this for $19.95, less than $1 a day, by going to ReliefFactor.com or calling and ordering it at 800-4-RELIEF. It comes to your house. You take it for 3 weeks. That's why they call it the 3-week quick start. And see what it does. Inside of those 3 weeks, normally it's within days. I mean, I hear most people say within 5 to 7 days, they start to notice a difference in their pain level. In a couple of weeks, people start to notice a real difference in their pain. Some people, after 3 weeks, even experience their pain go away entirely. And wouldn't that be some kind of magic without any sort of drugs or medical intervention whatsoever? Boy, I hope that's the story for you. But even if it's half the pain you're battling now or more, isn't that worth the investment of less than $1 a day? Give it a try. See if it doesn't help you. Because I know when you got pain, there's just nothing you're thinking about but that pain, and you don't want to do anything. Well, maybe you can do something about it today with Relief Factor. 800-4-RELIEF or visit ReliefFactor.com. One more on this potential shutdown business. J.D. Vance was asked about it over the weekend. He was on with Maria Bartiromo, number 65.
Well, look, we don't want to shut down the government, Martha, but it's really up to the Democrats. Under our system, you need 60 Senate Democrats to vote for the clean continuing resolution that the president and House Republicans have put forward. I think it's preposterous, Martha, and I think the American people really should pay attention to the fact that Democrats are threatening to shut down the entire government because they want to give hundreds of billions of dollars of health care benefits to illegal aliens. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a political party actually advertising the fact that they want to shut down every essential function of government, and they want to use that as leverage so that they get more money for illegal alien health care benefits. It's such a stark contrast between Republicans who are trying to put the interests of the American people first and Democrats who I think would want to take money from the American people to give benefits to illegal aliens. We don't want to shut down the government, but if Democrats refuse to just pass this clean continuing resolution, that's exactly what's going to happen, and I think the Democrats are going to bear the responsibility for it.
That, again, J.D. Vance on Fox News with Martha McCallum filling in on Fox News Sunday. Sorry, incorrectly attributed that. But nevertheless, this is a PR battle. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been. Axios reporting no one wants to shoulder the government shutdown blame. This impacts literally no one except for non-essential government workers. And I have many friends, and I never mean to, many of them listen to this show, and I'm always mindful that it sounds like I'm insulting them. I love you. They know I love them. It's not personal. I was a congressional staffer. I'm not dumping on members of congressional staffs. They work very, very hard. Many of them do. I won't say all of them do, but a good number of them work very hard. They're not getting rich necessarily, but it's a nice government check. You get some nice government bennies. Fast Eddie, maybe you know a government worker or two out there who's considered non-essential. Members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, you're talking about 535 members and all of their staffs. All right, so you're talking about thousands and thousands of people tied to all of these members of Congress, for instance, whose paychecks will cease if the government shuts down. Cease for the time that we're, quote, shut down. They will be reimbursed after the furlough. Trump is starting to say, maybe we just start firing people that are non-essential then. The question is, from a PR perspective, I read from headline Axios, no one wants to shoulder the government shutdown blame. Who's mad about it? You know what I'm saying, Ed? Like, all due respect, you and I are going to get up and go to work regardless. Most people will. Most of the country will. So is this really the big deal that the media makes it out to be for most people? I don't think so.
I think they're trying. I just don't know. It doesn't seem to be landing the way that it usually does when they're in power. It doesn't seem to be hitting the same way this time around.
Is that because we're now going through an era where cities are burning, people are being assassinated, and so the heaviness of, some state park guy or a federal park guy not getting his paycheck for a couple of days doesn't really seem to be nearly as impactful as somebody being shot and killed? Is that sadly maybe where we are? Is that why?
That could be it. Maybe people who were Democrats are thinking just like, hey, it looks like the crazies in our party are taking care of our enemies for us. So, yeah, maybe that has something to do with it.
So I think you're right. You're onto something there. Maybe the news is just entirely too heavy for people to be exacerbated by some congressional staff not getting paid for a couple of days. John Thune saying it's entirely up to the Democrats, as you just heard. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the pressure is absolutely not. What's different about Democrats' current fight after he felt his party's wrath when he caved to March's stopgap measure. Rather, he told Kristen Welker Democrats are focused on health care. Meaning, is he being pressured? Does he feel pressure to get this thing done? I mean, Trump and the Republicans are holding the cards. They just want to continue to fund the government. Democrats want conditions. Democrats don't have a hand to play. And Trump says, I'm going to make it hurt if you do try to play your hand. More in a minute. Okay, not there. Anyway, Frank was going to call and talk. Let's try that again, Franklin. Good morning. You there, buddy? Hi.
Good morning.
How are you? What's on your mind this morning? You're live on the air. Hi.
Hi. Well, you've been talking about this government shutdown again. Every year we go through it, the same old stuff. Somebody's whining and crying. Democrats are whining and crying. Republicans won't do their thing. They had 8 months to go ahead and work with the Republicans, but they didn't. But that's here or there. The thing about it is, they say we're not going to get paid. Wrong answer. I already been paid my October paycheck. The government works on a month behind schedule. My Social Security check is paid onto me a month behind. So when they ever say we're not going to get paid on October 1st, wrong answer, because the government already put the money in the Federal Reserve on the 21st of September. Yeah. So the money's already there in everybody's bank. Secondly, when I was in the Marine Corps, in August, on the 21st of August, we shut everything down. We didn't spend anything. Government worked for a whole month. 22nd of September, government released all funds that were available. They told us to spend it all. If we didn't spend it, we lose 10% on next year's budget. So what they want is
I don't think people are as panicked about this anymore, Franklin. To your point, I think people have, now, this isn't our first rodeo. We've been through this a few times, the boy that cries wolf. I don't think anybody's terribly panicked about it. And quite frankly, I just think people are kind of tired of listening to government people belly aching anyway, Franklin. Thanks for the call. Glad you did. It's a great point. Our telephone number is 855 Stigall. Now, meanwhile, you have President Trump dispatching National Guard folks to guardsmen and women to Portland. Dan Rayfield, the Attorney General in Oregon, seeking a preliminary injunction in U.S. District Court, arguing Trump's order violates the Posse Comitatus Act and the 10th Amendment. We've already gone through this, though. If Trump can make the credible case there's an emergency. He's well within his right to do so. We've already experienced this in California. The Supreme Court's already said as much. Oregon sued the Trump administration late yesterday, seeking to block him from deploying 200 National Guard troops to the city of Portland. Ed, we were just talking about this last week. We spent the week in Washington, D.C. When we were out and about, whether we were there in that beautiful new hotel and restaurant district called the Wharf, whether we were walking through the monuments, whether you're walking around blocks adjacent to the monuments, the White House and whatnot, you saw groups of 3 and 4 guardsmen, and I didn't see any homelessness. I didn't see any crime. I didn't hear about any crime or homelessness. In fact, I noticed even the sirens were less, Ed. You noticed that?
Yes, I actually did a lot of walking in D.C. You're right. I didn't even think about that. The sirens weren't blaring through every time. Because
constantly sirens. Every visit
my.
we've ever paid there before, constant sirens. I did not notice them nearly to the extent that I did this time.
No, that's a good point. Yep.
Yeah. So it's working. The point is, it's working. And Portland is dangerous. From KFoxTV.com, Soros Foundation giving $80 million to groups tied to extreme violence. The reason I share this is because they go hand in glove, particularly in cities like Portland. Amid Donald Trump officially designating Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, a new report details how a prominent billionaire may be funneling millions to extremist groups engaging in violent uprisings nationwide. Of course, Trump called this out. This is not a surprise. We all understand this. Capital Research Center, a new report from them details how billionaire George Soros' Open Society foundations have given more than $80 million to groups tied to terrorism or extremist violence. The foundation has awarded more than $23 million to 7 groups that directly assist domestic terrorism and criminality. This is why Trump moved to designate things like Antifa as terrorist organizations, because if he can prove, and I guarantee they're looking into it, that Soros is funding terrorist activity, well, then now you can start to talk about potential prosecution. John Fetterman knows it's real. The senator from Pennsylvania knows what's going on here. He knows about George Soros and the funding efforts. He knows the speech that's being deployed out there, and it's leading to people getting murdered, like Charlie. And Fetterman is saying, we got it. Now, whether he means this or not, I can't know a man's heart, but listen to number 54 here as John Fetterman says, if I have to be the only Democrat to do it, I'll be the one to do it. Left-wing violence is on the march big time. It's not even in debate, and I don't want to be a part of it. Take a listen.
But, I mean, on the left, you've got such extremes. Would you consider switching parties?
No, I'm not going to switch, but I'm just going to be an independent voice in the Democratic Party. I'm not going to be afraid if people, and if there are groups attacking a Democrat, the last one in Pennsylvania, then to me, that's part of the problem, in our party. And if you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists or all these kinds of things, well, I'm not going to be that guy. Independent thinking and views wherever I happen to believe the truth, regardless if it's the Republican or the Democratic voice, what I think is the truth in this. Now, in this truth right now, it's firmly on Israel through this. And it's always wrong to shut our government down. And that's where my voice is. And if that puts me as an outlier, that's where I am.
Again, I don't know what he means in his heart of hearts, but he says he doesn't want to participate in this Antifa activity. He doesn't want to call people fascists. The reality is America's experiencing a crisis that we haven't really seen quite like this since the Civil War. It's not just unrest. It's calculated attacks by leftists on those with whom they disagree, and the foundation of governance as we know it. And in Portland, there's no better example. Antifa, that's an Orwellian name if ever there was one, by the way, anti-fascist. These militants have turned federal facilities into battlegrounds. They're throwing incendiary devices, using lasers against ICE agents, declaring certain areas no-go zones for law enforcement as if they have that right to begin with. The situation escalated in Dallas. You had a sniper inscribing anti-ICE on bullets, killing one detainee, wounding 2 others before taking his own life. This is an ideological conflict. And it's devolved, I'm sorry to say, into violence. Fetterman is acknowledging that. He's acknowledging his side is responsible for it, and he's not going to be a party to it. Good for him. And these are not isolated incidents. Charlie Kirk's assassin. Charlie was targeted for the crime of engaging in civil debate with Democrats. These are the dangers we face as a country, certainly as conservatives. The manifesto, ironically condemning right-wing hate by the killer. Democrats on social media applauding the act as a justified response, much like with Luigi Mangione and the health insurance executive he murdered. Democrats in Congress voted no on a resolution condemning political violence. It's beyond debate. The Democrat Party cultivates irrational anger to attract and trigger the violent and unstable. Trump is moving to do something about it. Fetterman says, I'm not going to participate in it. Good for Fetterman again. This hostile environment is sustained by three interconnected traps that Democrats constantly promote, along with their media allies. The first is the concept of fabricated victimhood. The constant comparisons of Trump to Hitler and ICE to the Gestapo. It gives this false sense of oppression, linking personal identity to grievances and making electoral defeats feel existential. The second is moral absolutism. Nuance disappears entirely. Opponents portrayed as irredeemable monsters, Nazis, fascists, justifying violence as a righteous reaction at every turn. Remember Joe Biden's own calls to beat the hell out of Republicans. And, of course, the third is the echo chamber contagion. Universities, media outlets, inundating the vulnerable with tales of injustice. And studies show that dramatically increases aggression in those people. Democrats incentivize extreme reaction. From Charlie Kirk's murder to the dropping of charges against the corporate assassin I just mentioned in Mangione. A celebration of these events to demoralize law-abiding citizens and energize their unhinged base. This is not a spontaneous phenomenon, as I just read. It operates as part of a larger transnational network, funded in large part by a guy like Soros. It mirrors U.S. actions like USAID's nonviolent manuals for instigating blockades and arson. All of it concealed by grassroots funding from people like Soros. Framing sanctuary policies is essential, even as they attract and protect and free dangerous individuals. It's not a byproduct of good intentions, folks. It's a strategy that perpetuates a legacy of a political party that embraces division and destruction and chaos, all for electoral gain. And what President Trump is doing is fulfilling his campaign promises. Amid assassination attempts and riots, he's had enough. His executive order designates Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. That leads to increased scrutiny by the FBI, arrests, asset seizures, prosecutions, all measures that the Biden and Obama administrations have purposely overlooked. Confronting these goons and the extremists within the Democrat Party requires courage. Fetterman has displayed it. Standing firm against legacy media, condemning paid protesters, ensuring legal challenges, actively engaging with violent domestic terrorists, reestablishing the rule of law that demands disciplined engagement. These are dangerous times. It's courage, not just talk, that's going to make Americans safe and make America great again. More in a minute. I don't know about the Ryder Cup, Fast Eddie. Our executive producer comes from the world of golf. He literally covered it. He spent much of his career before he joined this show actually traveling and covering the game. I play casually. I play around a golf here and there. I'll watch a tournament here and there, but I don't know the history behind them. I'm not deeply ensconced in the world of golf. So I know of the Ryder Cup. I don't really know its background. I don't know its traditions. I've never been. I see that it comes up every year. I don't watch it usually. This year it's making news because the European team won the Ryder Cup. And as I understand it, and again, I didn't watch it, so I don't trust what I'm reading about it. Understand, Ed? But what I'm reading about it on social media is the MAGA era has turned it disorderly and ugly and caused mean-spirited, nasty, rotten MAGA golf fans to pick on poor Rory McIlroy. That's what I'm reading. So you tell me what's true.
I mean, I don't think that as framed that way, that's not true. Were the American fans loud? Of course they were. Is that uncommon? It's very common. It happens at every Ryder Cup.
Okay. That's what I need you to help me understand, because I need you to talk to me like I'm 5 and I've never heard of the Ryder Cup in my life, because we're not far from it. What is the Ryder Cup? Why is it loud and disorderly? And why should people understand this is not a new thing in a new Trump era of MAGA people being mean to Europeans and Rory McIlroy? This, by the way, for people that know nothing of it, it's an American team of professional golfers versus a European team of professional golfers, right? That's the whole premise of the Ryder Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it takes place every 2 years. 2 years from now it'll be in Europe, and then 2 years, or 4 years from now it'll be back in the U.S. And it's not uncommon. The European fans jeer the U.S. fans. It happens all the time, at least as long as I had been covering it. And there's even groups who come from America that go over to Europe to see this. Like, this is kind of a big deal. It's the closest, as far as fan experience, it's like the closest thing we have to an NFL or an MLB-like experience in the world of golf, is the best way I can put it.
This is kind of, sort of World Cup-ish for golf. Kind of, right? There's that national pride thing. It's like this national... By the way, dare I use this word? It's a celebration of nationalism. It's nationalism, Ed. Yes. I know we're not supposed to use the word nationalism, but the Ryder Cup's entire basis is a celebration of Europeans versus Americans, right?
That's right. It happens every 2 years. And it used to be, way back, it was the UK versus the US. Now it has since expanded... I can't remember what decade, but it has since expanded to include all of Europe. I mean, that's where the game comes from. So, yes, there are still Europeans in the world. They happen to play professional golf that care very deeply about the history of the sport, where they're from, and the countries they represent.
So do you think Donald Trump voters are now becoming more hostile at the Ryder Cup, booing Kathy Hochul, and it's alleged throwing beer on Rory McIlroy and his wife? I don't know whether that's true, but that's what I've been reading this weekend.
If someone was going to get booed, whether it's Kathy Hochul or George Bush, whomever it is, it's going to happen at the Ryder Cup. Honestly, yes, Donald Trump could have gotten booed at the Ryder Cup. Like, those fans, like the people...
Which he didn't, by the way. He showed up to a hero's welcome, just so you know.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's funny. But no, pouring beer, okay. All right, that does cross a line. That is not good behavior. Yes, you can get a little crazy at the Ryder Cup, but don't pour beer on people. That's not good.
All right. Incidentally, just as an aside, I saw Trump playing, I assume at his course, I don't know where he was playing, but I saw his daughter, or his granddaughter, Kai, who plays golf. She's quite good. I think she's still in high school. I'm not sure how she 16, 17 years old. What I love about Donald Trump is, in every video I see him playing, he's driving the cart onto the green. At least onto the apron, if not directly onto the green. I've never seen anybody do it but Trump. Normally they're his courses, like, who's going to tell him no? That's MAGA, being able to drive your cart right onto the green. More in a minute. Well, I don't know about you, but losing weight is one of those things I have been battling my entire life. Hi, it's Chris Stigall, and trying to keep it off once I've lost it, instead of gaining it back, that's also been a very difficult thing. I decided I was going to try something new. I decided I was going to try my PhD weight loss. And I decided I was going to try it because I know personally colleagues and many listeners to the Salem Radio Network that have lost thousands of pounds of weight combined thanks to the My PhD Weight Loss program. So I'm going to call up Dr. Ashley Lucas and the team at My PhD Weight Loss. I'm going to get one of these personal nutrition coaches. I hope you'll join me in this weight loss journey. I hope very soon you and I will be able to brag about all the weight and inches we're losing off our waist. I'd just like to get a little weight off these knees, I'm not getting any younger. It's going to be a lot easier to walk around a golf course this summer. Join me. MyPhDweightloss.com is the website, or 864-644-1900. 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Tell them Chris Stigall sent you, and good luck. Here we go. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product.
a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98. And for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris. Good to be with you, folks. Welcome in on this Monday edition of the Stigall Show. I hope your weekend was a great one. Our telephone number is 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here. Thanks for being with us, however you consume the show. Salem News Channel, great radio stations by the hundreds, growing by leaps and bounds all over the country. Maybe you're listening on the podcast later. Just glad to have you along. ChrisStigall.com for social media, the Harumph Society, and everything you need to reach out to the show or more information on the show. It's been a couple of minutes since I talked with our friend Lee Smith, who wrote, I think, one of the definitive books on the Russia hoax and the attempted takedown of Donald Trump, unsuccessful takedown of Donald Trump. It was a New York Times bestseller when we last talked, The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in history. He has written a brand new book about China and Trump's dealings with China, which is due out October 21st specifically. You can pre-order it right now, though. It's called The China Matrix, the epic story of how Donald Trump shattered a deadly pact. And Lee, it is good to be back with you this morning. It's been too long. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's great to hear your voice, and thank you for inviting me back on. Great to talk to you.
Of course. I would be remiss before we get into your new book if I didn't, because it's been so long since we've talked. I'm sure you feel great satisfaction since your last book, The Plot Against the President, to see how things have unfolded up to and including the indictment of James Comey last week. Could I just get your 30,000-foot view on all of the happenings since you wrote that book?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm very, this is what we've been waiting for, all of us, not just people who wrote about this, not just congressional investigators like Devin Nunes, and whose lead investigator at the time was now FBI Director Kash Patel. But what we've wanted is accountability. We wanted charges. We wanted indictments. And now we want convictions. So, there's been plenty of information out there for a while. We've known what happened for a while. I mean, that book, Plot Against the President, was published in 2019. I got everything right. The people who did the bad things, I named them. I identified what they'd done wrong. So, again, now it's time to see some people walking around in orange jumpsuits.
I've kind of already addressed this earlier in the show, but I'd love for you to take a swing at it as well. When you see all of these people, including some on the right, or those who you would consider, I guess, conservative or Republican adjacent or whatever you want to call them, when they're on the Sunday shows and they all have the vapors and they're falling on their fainting couches about this unprecedented weaponization of justice and Trump's retribution campaign using the DOJ to go after his enemies like James Comey, the Boy Scout. I mean, my blood boils, and I've already kind of unloaded on it. Lee, would you like to address it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not surprising, and if we remember what happened during the Biden years, when the DOJ was used to go after everyone from, school parents, school boards, pro-life activists, and of course the J6 dragnet. I mean, it's understandable that they're not only going to cover up for what they did wrong, for what the left did, how the left disrupted all of our political, cultural, and norms, right? Social norms and justice as well. And what people should be very, very concerned about is that they're not going to stop, right? Which is not to say that the Trump administration should use the law to hurt people, should do things unlawfully. What I'm saying is that we need to be on alert, because things if the Trump administration can't get done what it needs to get done now, put people like James Comey and John Brennan in jail, what's going to happen starting in 2028, 2029 is going to be extremely bad. We'll be in a much worse place 3 years from now than we were 2 years ago. So it's very important for the Trump administration to bear down. So what people are saying right now on television, some of these people are just ignorant. Some of them are just vain, right? But the really sinister people, what they're doing is they are laying down the pretext to come after Republican voters, conservatives, in even a worse way in 2028, 2029.
Lee Smith's brand new book, you can order it now, called The China Matrix, the epic story of how Donald Trump shattered a deadly pact. And I will get into that next after one more question. I want to play for you Mike Johnson, who was on with Jake Tapper. You mentioned J6. I thought this exchange interesting. And I think Mike Johnson, very atypical of Republicans past who hold positions like this. I love Johnson's answer. Give me number 52 here, Paul. And Lee, I'll get your reaction on the other side.
There's new information over the last couple of days about that as well. Apparently, there were 274 FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th.
No.
I think the total number of persons
Kash Patel just brought some enhanced understanding to that. They were sent there to do crowd control because of everything that was going on. It wasn't a false flag operation, as President Trump suggested.
Well, Jake, wait a minute. Hold on, Jake. How do you know that, right? There's a lot of questions, brand new questions about. Well, and I'm telling you that there's videos, and it's always been disputed what involvement some of those persons, engaged in, what involvement they had. Did they spur on the crowd? Did they open the gates to allow them in? I don't know. These are questions, but they should be answered. And yes, there's a lot of investigation and discovery to go forward. We have a select subcommittee, bipartisan, a committee that is reviewing the investigation of the original J6 committee. I mean, a committee investigating the previous committee. Why? Because there was so much bias in the system.
Yeah, and so 274 FBI agents, I don't know that Kash Patel definitively just dismissed it as a crowd control effort. Did he, Lee? And by the way, I think we have police and Capitol Police and regular D.C. police for crowd control. Do we use FBI agents for crowd control, Lee?
No, I mean, look, Kash Patel did not dismiss this, and good for Speaker Johnson, as you say. And what I take from Speaker Johnson's messages there, we are investigating the original investigation, congressional investigation on January 6th. I mean, we know some of what they did. They threw away lots of evidence, right? They threw away lots of stuff that they'd been doing. They'd also been throwing away evidence of the of the unlawful things they'd been doing. If you look at the job right now before the FBI, before the Department of Justice, the sheer volume, the amount of corruption, the number of things that went on during the Biden years, I mean, it's just jaw-dropping. When you think about that the administration has to deal. This Trump administration has to deal with that, as well as pushing forward on the deportation campaign, making this country safe again. I mean, it's just staggering the amount, the corruption, where they drove this country into. Joe Biden, the Joe Biden team, the Democrats, congressional Democrats. It's just shocking. It's just shocking.
And I think, but may I just ask, do you think Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, do you feel good about them and the movement here recently in the last week? I know many people who voted Trump have felt kind of frustrated, including President Trump, by the way. I mean, he's gone on social media to say so, to be fair. So are you more satisfied this past week?
Well, again, I'm certainly happy with I'm certainly very happy with the James Comey charges. Look, I mean, I know Kash. I've known him since I wrote that book, Plot Against the President. I love Kash, and Kash is the perfect person to find all the bad to get the bad guys. Kash is the perfect person to do it. And you know, there's a lot of other people in there, FBI and DOJ, who are on board. But there's hardly any surprise that there are going to be bad people who are going to try to stop them. And I think that's what we saw a little bit of what was going on in that Eastern District of Virginia, that U.S. Attorney's office there. So thank goodness the new person came in there, got those charges. I mean, wrapped that up, I think, 48, 72 hours? I mean, just amazing. So, again, I'm very confident in Kash Patel, and I know that, the Attorney General wants to wants to get this job done as well. Again, there's so much for them to do because of where the Biden team ran this country. I mean, ran us into a ditch. So the clock is running, and they all know it.
Lee Smith's book, The China Matrix, you can pre-order it now. He's at Lee Smith DC on X. Talk to me about it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. We're going to have you back when it rolls out, but give us a little preview of what people can expect.
Well, a lot of it has to do with, I mean, it's what I've been writing about for a while now. It's about political corruption. It's about corporate corruption. This is really the history, 50-year history of the bad things that American elites, political elites, corporate elites have been doing, and how they've betrayed us to the Chinese Communist Party. And this has been going on. It starts with 1972, with Nixon and Kissinger's trip. Kissinger is a central person in this story, and the hero of the story is Donald Trump, who steps up and says, "Wait a minute, we can't keep doing this. We are losing trillions. We have lost trillions in that in the budget imbalance. It's destroyed our manufacturing. It's hurt our national security. So this relationship has truly ruined, or not yet ruined, but deeply damaged our peace and prosperity." And it was really Donald Trump who underscored how important this was. And so that's what the book is about. It's about the bipartisan issue. It's not just Democrats. It's Republicans too. It's George H.W. Bush. It's George W. Bush. Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
It's called The China Matrix, the epic story of how Donald Trump shattered a deadly pact. Available for pre-order now. And Lee, on the 21st, I'd love to have you back to talk more about it. Outstanding work. Great to catch up, my friend.
Thank you, Chris, and I'm looking forward to coming back. I appreciate it.
Dr. Marty McCary discussing the shots and autism and acetaminophen and its relationship. Number 62 over the weekend.
I believe the president has a right to agree with the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, who has reviewed the scientific literature and said very publicly in a statement, and I quote, "There's a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen and the neurodegenerative disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder." Now, there may be many causes of autism, and that's the exciting part of our analyses that we're doing. And it simply may be one factor with a small effect size, but we described leucovorin this week as a potential treatment for autism. We've got to do something. We have this expanding epidemic. Nobody has really put it front and center until we got this charge from President Trump and Secretary Kennedy. We've done an incredible review of the literature, and we're proud to report in 2 weeks we're going to have a first therapeutic that may help up to half of kids with autism.
Do you know that I have a friend in California who said to me over the weekend that his daughter had some complications at birth, and as such, 20-some years ago, when his daughter was born and some complications, and then the vaccine schedule for her, let's start vaccinating her. Do you know that the doctor then, he was telling me this over the weekend, the doctor then said, let's spread these things out based on the complications. And he said, why is that? Well, because in some instances, in combination, all of this at once could be hard on the baby. And my friend said 20 years ago, and he had kids after that, it stuck with him, that there was a doctor 20 years ago that said, well, in some instances, it's better that we spread these things out and not inject the baby all at one time. And he said, why aren't more people asking this question? Why aren't more people challenging this? And again, that was 2 decades ago. Seth MacFarlane, I don't have time to play this. I may play it on the backside of this break, but Seth MacFarlane, who I think is very, very funny, but it's just so sorry for somebody that is as smart and funny as he is, how willfully blind he is to even having a discussion about the efficacy of shots, particularly new ones, like the COVID shot. Do you know that he is like so many people that still believe, they die on the hill of the idea that damn COVID shot is something they have to take annually? And a lot of pharmacies are pushing that, come get your COVID shot, as if it did anything, when in fact it's just making people sick most of the time. And worse, which I could tell you about, but I'm not going to at the moment. Hang on. This story, out of all places, Des Moines, Iowa,
heading into the weekend. Have you heard this? Reading this from Jonathan Turley. Des Moines Public School Superintendent Ian Roberts, speaking of Bad Bunny, arrested after fleeing ICE officers and abandoning a school-subsidized car with an illegal handgun inside in Des Moines, Iowa. You heard me right. The superintendent of the school district in Des Moines. Roberts has a criminal record and a long-standing order of removal from the country. This is the public school superintendent of Des Moines. The case has become a flashpoint over immigration policies, with protesters demanding his release and Democrat politicians denouncing his arrest as evidence of a fascist regime. The controversy is also spilling over into the Senate race in Iowa, as the district board is headed by board chair Jackie Norris, who, ready, is a former chief of staff to Michelle Obama and a current Democrat candidate for the United States Senate. Here is the delightful Jackie Norris in clip 48, the chair of the Des Moines School Board, who helped hire and keep this illegal alien on staff as superintendent, $300,000 a year.
On behalf of the Des Moines public school community, I want to provide an update from district leadership and the board on the current situation unfolding with our superintendent, Dr. Ian Roberts. Before we begin, it seems fitting to take a page out of Dr. Roberts' book and ask the community to engage in radical empathy as we work through this situation together. Radical empathy is the recognition that we can disagree and still empathize with each other. The respect of others' humanity. This concept will be essential as we wait to learn more. We do not have all the facts. There is much we do not know. However, what we do know is that Dr. Roberts has been an integral part of our school community since he joined over 2 years ago. During his time with our district, he has shown up in ways big and small and has advocated for students and staff and begun introducing concepts that will help us reimagine education for future generations of Des Moines students. Here is what we also know. Dr. Roberts joined us in July 2023 and has held educational leadership positions in districts across the U.S. for 20 years. The Iowa Board of Education...
Yeah, actually, that doesn't help matters at all, lady. I don't know what she thinks she's doing by making that... Do you know what she's doing? What she's effectively doing is laying out the case that for did she say decades? I think she said, Ed, did she say decades he's been hired by different districts? I don't remember if she said decades. But anyway, he's worked for multiple public school districts as an illegal alien. Now, here again, this is supposed to be helpful. Miss Norris, Jackie Norris, the board chair of the Des Moines public school system, is trying to help the case by saying this illegal alien has been hired repeatedly by multiple different school districts. So he is fleeing arrest in a school-subsidized car with an illegal handgun inside. He jumps out of the car and takes off. He has a criminal record and a long-standing order of removal from the country. And the Des Moines public school system, run by Michelle Obama's former chief of staff, this Jackie Norris woman, helped hire him, and says we need to have radical empathy for the criminal, and that the doctor, they love to use doctor, as though he did. The illegal alien with long-standing deportation orders and an illegal gun in his car. Doctor. I should just attach doctor to the front of my name, since apparently leftists love to throw it around like it means something. Doctor, oh, the doctor. DHS statement says Roberts entered the United States on a student visa in 1999. Roberts had a final order of removal in May of 2024. The district maintains that a third-party comprehensive background check was conducted on Roberts, and he was required to verify employment eligibility for all employees. If that was the case, Roberts may have lied on school forms about his eligibility. The district says Dr. Roberts completed the I-9 employment eligibility verification form and submitted the required documentation. Of everyone that exists in education, Dr. Roberts is the one that Jackie Norris and the team at the Des Moines Public School Board decided to hire. Meanwhile, in Virginia, there's a Senate race going on there. I got to tell you what, public schools are going to come right back home to the forefront of a couple of these very high-profile races. So you've got, governor's race in Virginia, Senate race in Iowa. So head to Virginia now, where a scandal over Virginia public school allegedly arranging abortions for minor students intensified last week as the chairman of a key Senate committee launched a federal inquiry into potential misuse of taxpayer funds. Senator Cassidy, chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, is demanding answers after allegations a school social worker at Fairfax County's Centerville High School paid for one of the students' abortions and attempted to arrange one for another student. Let there be no mistake, a school official pressuring minor students to obtain covert abortions using school funding is illegal. Then in New Jersey, as we talked about, as the weekend was coming to a close, you had, what's her name? Is it Mickey? Mickey something or other? The Democrat running for governor in, oh, Mickey, you're so fine there in New Jersey running again.
Mikey Sherrill.
Mickey, Mikey, I don't care to know her name. She's also hip deep in a scandal, Ed, right? Chitterelli, who is the Republican, is now neck and neck with her. She didn't walk in her military academy's graduation because she was involved in a cheating scandal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these are your Democrats, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the gubernatorial race, the Democrat Spanberger, all four school employees giving abortions and encouraging and funding abortions on the sly with the school kids when biological boys are not raping girls in the locker room. That's Virginia for you. Meanwhile, in Iowa, the lady that used to run Michelle Obama's office is now running the school district in Des Moines and hiring illegals with illegal guns fleeing law enforcement. And then you've got a stone-cold cheater and fraud running for governor in New Jersey. Quite a pack. Fast Eddie. All women, incidentally, all left-wing women, Ed, every single one of them ladies. Which one of these bunch you think deserves to win the election?
Hopefully none, of course.
Unbelievable. Which, brings me to event on Saturday. And Fast Eddie was there. This would be an opportune time to tell you about the good people that do work all over the country in Christian education and home education, which is growing by leaps and bounds. Some 4 million people are now home educating, or you call it homeschool or whatever you want to call it. Christian school and homeschooling is exploding because of stories like these. And it is such a great thing to see. And on Saturday, for the 4th year in a row, I was honored to be a small part of an operation that we call through the Herzog Foundation, the Excellence in Christian Education Awards. And I'm the MC of it for the 4th year running. Ed, you were there. You tell me I've talked about this in previous shows. We call teachers from all over the country to come in with their families and some of the representatives from their Christian schools or their homeschool cooperatives. And the Herzog Foundation recognizes their excellence in the field, and we talk a little bit about the different things they do to educate kids. You saw it firsthand for the first time. What was your impression of these people? Were they not the most impressive people you've heard?
Oh, very impressive. And Chris, you got to remember something. I know you know this, but to those who may not, Christian educators, it's not like they're on the premium scale of the pay grade as far as teachers go. Like, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, they're not. It's not. These are not private schools that are like hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are kids. These are people that are paying a few $1,000s if they can afford it. Many of them subsidized, and teachers who are not making anything.
Right.
And the foundation always gives them a little something to spend on themselves too.
So that's the thing. Like, you could tell that they truly love their work. You could tell that they truly have a mission and are trying to save America's youth with what they're doing. And it was just very impressive. These are very impressive people that it makes you believe. Like, after you sit in the cities and you can think, oh my gosh, it's so bad out there as far as schooling goes, but it makes you believe and see that there is another way. And yeah.
I hope
that you will explore. If you think to yourself, whether you're in the Des Moines public schools or you're in the Fairfax County public schools, and you think, oh my gosh, is my kid just subject to this sentence? No. You do not have to be trapped because of your zip code in some failing public school. There are so many options available to you. And I would just suggest, if you don't know where to start, go to the Herzog Foundation website, herzogfoundation.com, and there are free resources there for you to plug into to find out about Christian education, maybe even start your own Christian school if you want, or start your own homeschool endeavor. There's an 8-step process for free at herzogfoundation.com to find out how. But my thanks to the Herzog Foundation, and congratulations to those teachers and homeschool co-ops that were honored. It was an honor to be a part of it at the Museum of the Bible this weekend. More in a minute. You know, Bill Maher was talking about this over the weekend, not just October 7th and the way corporate media is now covering what's going on in Israel between them and the war with Hamas, but they're also ignoring, and I was so glad to see Bill Maher reporting on this. I mean, I have to call it reporting because most mainstream media does not, and to see Bill Maher, of all places on HBO, actually talk about something we focus on here, the slaughter of Christians by Islamists. And that's what it is. It's Islamists. And there are too many people on, quote, our side, and there are people in our media, whatever you want to call that, who have podcasts trying to get attention, who are now trying to convince you that Israel is the aggressor and Islam isn't real. Islamists will murder you. They will stone cold murder you if you're not like them. And if you don't understand Islamism, you're a stone cold fool. You really, you need to pull your head out of your rectum and understand what Islamism is. You can dislike Israel, you can mistrust Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu and the government of Israel all you want. Free speech, God bless America, I don't care. I'm not here to sell you on the goodness of Israel. I'm here to sell you on the bad, the very dangerous, the slaughtering, murdering bad of what Islam is. And if the favorite podcast or show host of yours doesn't talk about Islam, he or she is likely being bought and paid for by some sort of Islamic government or organization. I'll almost make book on it. Because in a day and age where we're trying to secure dollars and cents in a very competitive media landscape, it's amazing what people will start to pocket and how they'll look the other way to make a fast buck. Maybe big bucks. Islamism is the threat of our time. Period. Full stop. I don't even need to discuss Israel. I know it's real. It's slaughtering Christians by the hundreds in Africa alone. And it will come here. It is here, as a matter of fact. It's being ushered into governments right now. School boards, city councils. Look no further than Mad Manny, this lunatic that may well become the next mayor of New York. You'll never convince me he's not at least a stone-cold Marxist, if not an Islamist. It's here. Islamic fundamentalism is here, and it wishes to grow, and it wishes to kill or convert everyone not like it. And so if your favorite podcaster is still talking about Israel, they're compromised. I don't know how else to say it. They're totally compromised. Here's Bill Maher, of all people, number 46.
The fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar.
Right, no one's talking about it.
It's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. And again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Thank you. No one will talk about it, so thank you.
Absolutely.
It's Africa. That's why no one's talking about it, and they should be. You can't read about it in mainstream media. It's sad, so thank you for bringing it up.
Well, because the Jews aren't involved. That's why. It's the Christians and the Muslims. Who cares? It's just...
He's right. Is he? Can you argue it? Ed, can you argue that? The Jews aren't involved, so nobody on our side wants to talk about it. Because it's fashionable now for the conservative podcaster and influencer to talk about Israel. No need to address Christians being slaughtered.
Chris,
Not a word to say about
I
it.
hadn't thought of it that way until he put it that way, and it's just like, that's a damn good point, Bill.
It's just gross. It's grotesque. Anyway, we'll continue to talk about it because we actually believe it's important, and it is the thing to pay attention to. Speaking of the New York mayoral race, Eric Adams has officially dropped out in an attempt to stop Mad Manny. They're trying to basically coalesce behind Cuomo. But the money, I just saw a report over the weekend of the money. Would it? By the way, would it surprise you that most of the money from Mad Manny comes from out of state? Like by a lot. He is awash in money, and it's almost all coming from outside of New York. Where might it be coming from? Maybe the same places that fund all of these podcasters that obsessively talk about how Israel is the great aggressor and corrupt and all of this. Could it be those people? The same funding sources? Maybe. Might be worth exploring anyway. Total transparency here, folks. You know where I stand. I'll tell you exactly who my sponsors are because you hear them. I talk about them here on the show. Can't be so sure of some of my colleagues. See you tomorrow. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.